Hello there. Want some free money? A new pandemic recovery state aid scheme is being considered to give shopping vouchers for everyone to spend in the hardest hit retail and hospitality sectors. Firstly, please subscribe and like this video to give my channel a boost. And I'm always uploading new content, so please do check back daily. UK Chancellor Rishi Sunak is considering giving out vouchers for people to spend on the high street to help boost the industries worst affected by lockdown, such as our retail, service and hospitality industries. This is based on a piece of work from the Resolution Foundation to be published on Tuesday, and that will call on the Chancellor to give every household in Britain high street vouchers worth £500 per adult and £250 per child, in order to kickstart the economic recovery by focusing support on the firms and workers hardest hit by the COVID-induced economic crisis, says the foundation. This would involve the Treasury funding up to £300 billion worth of consumption vouchers across the country, it says. And it continues, the High Street Voucher Scheme would be universal, delivered by vouchers or smart cards, activated over a fixed time period, the Foundation recommends 12 months, and can easily be deactivated if the sectors benefiting from the scheme need to be closed down in the event of a second wave of the infection. Now, the foundation says this type of scheme would be better for targeting the worst hit businesses than tinkering with things like VAT, and that copying the US and just handing out cash would end up benefiting the rich. The foundation notes that cash transfers risk simply being saved by higher income households who are already boosting their balance sheets through enforced savings. A VAT cut, meanwhile, would do less for lower income households whose finances are most likely to constrain their consumption because they tend to spend more of their income on VAT exempt, reduced or zero rated goods. It also risks being completely wasteful if its timing coincides with a second lockdown. James Smith, Research Director at the Resolution Foundation, said, as well as setting out the biggest ever peacetime job support programme, the Chancellor should get Britain spending in places where it's needed most. A universal high street voucher scheme worth £500 per adult and £250 per child to be spent only in these sectors would kickstart demand in the right parts of our economy, boost living standards and deliver targeted support to the businesses that need help the most. This may lead to a quick injection of much needed local funds. But how long will such measures be needed, considering that regional lockdowns could still occur? This could result in some geographical locations benefiting from the available vouchers as people sneak out of locked down regions to spend those vouchers, while those businesses in locked down areas suffer more. Imagine a lockdown takes place in Reading and not in neighbouring Wokingham. Hairdressers in Wokingham will soak up all the vouchers as people sidle furtively out of Reading, whilst hairdressers in Reading can only sit back and watch as their businesses sink further. So will vouchers be given out on a regionalised basis? That would make more sense. But again, how long will vouchers be needed to prop up business models vulnerable to lockdowns? Or do we leave those businesses that cannot withstand the pressures of lockdown to fail? Until the day all lockdowns are all ended, there is little hope of business confidence returning under these circumstances. And what can these vouchers be spent on? Now, no one would question using them in florists, cafes, cake shops and butchers, etc., and clothes shops, but how about charity shops? And restaurants make sense too, but will the vouchers only apply to the food element and not the drink? Will the local off licences be eligible? And the pubs? How about tobacconists? Then there's the supermarkets and their local small outlets like Tesco Express. And the newsagent's top shelf, if there is still such a thing. And I also gather that there are other establishments dotted about the place that offer more personal services, shall we say. Are those eligible too? As long as proper social distancing is observed, of course. I'm sure lots of people out there need to know the answer to this aspect of the hospitality industry. And can I pay off my accountancy or legal fees using these vouchers? At the end of the day, if a business is eligible for the high street, then shouldn't it be okay to spend government vouchers in it, whatever it provides? And will shops in these big shopping malls and retail parks also be eligible? And what form will these vouchers be in? Paper or cash card? And as soon as these are issued, a whole new fraud and crime industry will be quickly built up around them. Not just counterfeit vouchers or cloned cards. No, there will be people willing to swap them at half their face value or less for illicit items, substances and services. But I can see the pros to this for ordinary people and small retailers. It will get cash flowing and generate much welcome demand for suppliers to provide those outlets with the goods they need to sell, as well as the need for service staff. It might also cause an overshoot effect, where far more people than normal end up on the high streets looking for places to spend this little windfall in. A nice little earner for shops after the last few months of arid deserts and tumbleweed. But the drawback is it could just generate a short-term false demand that dissolves away once the vouchers run out. And if people do end up buying essential products from local shops, will that mean the big supermarkets take a hit? So people then end up using vouchers to buy food from their high street and then save their own money to buy things online maybe. You could even end up with people who, due to this scheme, can afford to buy stuff from relatively high-priced high street shops but be unable to pay their water bill. There is also the question of using a government voucher to part pay for an item, such as a new TV or a washing machine from a high street shop, or maybe even a second-hand car. Would that be allowed? I foresee a lot of unforeseen consequences. I think that's what I mean. But it is free money. Until the tax bill arrives, of course. For my money, one of the best ways to get people back into high streets would be to cut the cost of highway and council-owned car parking and park and ride schemes to zero. You can still make drivers take and display a ticket with a maximum allowed time on it, enforceable by wardens, but it would be free. At least people would not be priced out of high streets and into retail parks. And in more pandemic recovery scheme news, what Rishi Sunak gives with one hand, he takes away with the other. As shown by employers panicking over recent changes to the furlough scheme. Especially those employers who have used or who are looking to use the furlough scheme cynically to lay off staff. They could be in for a very big shock. Because the Treasury has reworded its coronavirus job retention scheme schedule to embed at its heart the concept of using it to keep people employed. The Treasury sent out a direction about this signed by the Chancellor on the 25th of June, and businesses are only now waking up to the implications. The bit that's worrying business now says, Integral to the purpose of the coronavirus job retention scheme is that the amounts paid to an employer pursuant to a CJRS claim are used by the employer to continue the employment of employees in respect of whom the CJRS claim is made, whose employment activities have been adversely affected by the coronavirus and coronavirus disease, or the measures taken to prevent or limit its further transmission. And it's that use of the word integral in respect to continuing the employment of employees that has caught the attention. So employers who use furlough money to pay employees during their notice period or for redundancy payouts, for example, might be forced to pay it back to the Treasury. As you would expect, this has already sparked the interest of lawyers who stand to make a pile of dosh out of claims, counterclaims and advice in this area. And with over 1 million employers, with over 9 million furloughed staff and a total cost so far of over £25 billion, you can imagine the scope for fraud, cynicism and lawyers' fees, can't you? This will also please those who are worried that unscrupulous employers would use the furlough scheme in some way for their own ends and not for the benefit of their workers. And it might also put the minds of worried employees more at ease, knowing that pressure is being applied to their bosses to keep them on. But at the end of the day, the furlough scheme is called a job retention scheme, so it says what it is on the tin in big, bold letters. As far as I'm concerned, any firm that uses it in a way other than intended should face legal action and having the money clawed back by the Treasury. Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it. So what do you think about getting £500 of free money and the potential CJRS clawback? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.